Hello grade 8s and welcome to Geometry 6. In this lesson we're going to learn about opposite angles and how to recognize them and use them to find missing angles in shapes. You can easily remember this rule as the X factor rule or the X shape rule. If you look here, I've drawn an X. And if we think carefully about this X, we've got different angles inside. We could label them angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, and angle 4. And what's interesting about the X rule or the opposite angle rule is very, very basic and very easy to understand. And this is it. Opposite angles are going to be equal. And it's super simple. So if we look here, 1 and 3 are opposites. They are on the opposite side of the X shape. So it means that angle 1 is equal to angle 3. And angle 2, which is opposite to angle 4, is also going to be equal. Now let's put our knowledge to good use. And also in the process, learn a very useful method for solving geometry problems and proofs. We call this type of shape here a compound shape. It means that it's much more complex than the triangles that we've been working with thus far. And when we work with compound shapes, we are going to need to take our time and follow a method to make sure we get correct answers. And the method I would like to introduce to you is one where we look, unlock, plan, and solve the problem. And I'm going to walk you through this 4-step process bit by bit. In the first step, we need to look at this shape and very simply get our brains to see things that are useful to us. Pause the video now and think through what clues you see. The first thing that you should see in this shape is 2 triangles. And these triangles are located, of course, here and here. Then I need to see where I'm going. And if we look carefully at this particular problem, we can see we need to find the X value, which is hiding here. But in order to get there, I'm stuck because when I look, I'm missing an angle here and I'm missing an angle here. So in the second part of my looking, I'm going to see that there are some opposite angles which have to be equal right here. And I probably have enough information now to get to X. Now it's time for step 2, where we're going to start unlocking the problem. And in order to unlock this problem, we've identified there are 2 places where we need to have some more information. So what we're going to do in this step is see what clues or knowledge or rules we have in geometry to get us to the point where we can solve. We're not going to solve yet. In this particular problem, there are 3 things that I need to find in order to get to the solution. I'm going to need to find this missing angle, and eventually I'm going to need to find X. So at this point, what we're really looking for is the reasons or the methods that are going to help us do that. If I need to find the first missing angle, I'm going to use angles of a triangle. If I look at the second angle here, it's right across from this one over on the other side, so I'm going to use opposite. Finally, if I'm going to find this angle here, and I know this one here, I'm going to use, again, the angles of a triangle. So now we have in our brain enough clues and information in order to solve the problem. Step 3 is usually very quick and easy, and it's just going to be us planning our approach to solving the problem. And I think I've already walked you through how this is going to work. We're going to need to find this angle first, which will then unlock this angle and allow us to unlock that angle. And we're going to use angles of a triangle to unlock the first step, opposite angles to unlock the second step, and angles of a triangle to unlock the third step. So we're going to do the solution in the steps 1, 2, and 3. So now we're ready to solve in the order that we have determined with our planning. So in step 1, we already know we're going to use angles of a triangle to find that missing angle there. Pause the video now and see if you can get the answer. To help me solve, I'm going to add some variables just so I know how to set up my equations. So I'm just going to call this angle y and this angle z. You could call it any letter, but don't call it x because we're going to solve for x at the very end. So if I set up this particular problem using angles of a triangle, I get 70 plus 60 plus the y value is going to equal 180. Working through the problem quickly, I determine that y is equal to 50 degrees. Now I'm going to move on to step 2, and it's very simple. Y and z are the same because they are opposite angles. So I know that z is also going to be 50 degrees. When I write this information, the angles are the same, and make sure that you write the reason. It's also very useful as we discover and unlock knowledge in a problem to write down the values. So we figured out that y was 50 and z was 50. And now we're finally ready to figure out what x is. It's going to be the 50 plus the 50 plus the x that makes 180. And if we work through that problem and solve it correctly, we're going to discover after all of this work that x is equal to 80 degrees. This method might seem very long when you first start to use it, but if you can train your brain to go through this 4-step process to solve compound problems in geometry, you are soon going to be a very good geometry problem solver. And many of these steps will occur within seconds in your brain as you work problems out. Good luck, and make sure you practice a lot before your next assessment.